is Matthew McConaughey in the movie Dallas Buyers Club. The drama history movie that came out in 2014 had McConaughey playing a Texan horse rider who was diagnosed with HIV and given 30 days to live. After being nominated an Oscar for his incredible performance, he opened up about the side effects he's had after the drastic weight loss he did for the role. He shed a total of 47 pounds, which is a lot when you're not a big guy to begin with. He confessed that he chewed a lot of ice on set while filming so that he could remain that thin throughout the movie. It was a distraction from eating real food. He lost the 47 pounds in just 4 months and says that by the end of filming his body was withering away. He said he lost energy from the neck down, but found he had a lot of energy from the neck up, saying he only needed 3 hours of sleep or less a day. He was very alert, almost hyper, but his body itself had no energy. You can imagine what a few hours of sleep a night and minimal calories will do to one's body. McConaughey says he wanted to portray his character in the most realistic way possible and that he's very proud of his performance regardless of the side effects. He went to a nutritionist afterwards to help him with his recovery. In at number 9 we have Norman Reedus, known for his incredible work in the TV show The Walking Dead. He plays Daryl Dixon, who has the reputation of a badass throughout the series, but he told People's Choice that he's actually kind of a wimp. He admits to having an impressive list of injuries while filming, some being as small as a black eye to as big as slicing his arm open. He said that a black eye came from the crossbow we see him using throughout every episode. He was running through a doorway with his crossbow and he hit it on the door frame, causing the bow to hit him right in the face, giving him a black eye. Ouch. But it was in the 5th season that he sliced his arm open badly. Apparently it happened during one of his favorite scenes and they caught the whole thing on tape, but obviously it didn't make it into the show. It was a scene where some of the cast was barricading a barn door to keep the zombie walkers out. His co-star said they saw his arm completely open, seeing his bone, and blood started pouring out. He had sliced through a tendon. I can only imagine how hard it would be to work with a crossbow every day after damaging your arm like that, but it didn't stop him. It was almost impossible for his arm to fully heal until filming was actually over, and then it could properly heal. Not too long after the incident did he slice open his hand on one of the vending machines on set, and not a slice that's like a size of a paper cut, another nasty one. Either he's just clumsy or he has really bad luck. Sliding into number 8 we have Michelle Yeoh on the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the drama fantasy that came out in 2000. She's known to be a legendary martial arts actress and she sure had her work cut out for her when it came to the demanding fight choreography in this movie. When shooting one fight sequence, her knee gave out. She soldiered through it and continued shooting, but it was later revealed that she had actually torn a tendon in her knee. Her injury was so bad it required surgery and months of physical therapy. She says that she's recovered now, but that it's impossible to recover 100% from an injury like that. Her future work will all be affected as well. We gotta give props to actors who don't use stunt doubles. Taking the number 7 spot is Daniel Day-Lewis from the movie There Will Be Blood, the drama history that came out in 2007. He's known for having method acting insanity due to the amount of injuries he's gone through for movies. For the movie The Boxer, he trained intensely for 3 years, which resulted in a broken nose and a herniated disc. And while filming Gangs of New York, he almost died of pneumonia because he refused medical treatment. Those injuries alone are enough to have an impact on the human body, but his biggest injury to date was while shooting a scene in There Will Be Blood. In the beginning of the movie, he is seen digging for silver down a California mine shaft that is 50 feet down. Turns out while he was filming, he fell down the shaft, sending him to the hospital for a broken rib, a bruised up body, and a concussion. I don't know if any movie is worth falling down a 50 feet mine shaft. His director said that he's lucky he's not dead. In at number 6 we have Christian Bale for The Machinist, the thriller drama that came out in 2004 and followed the story of a man, Trevor Resnick, who suffers from severe insomnia and psychological issues that led him to an accident. It ultimately leads him in a downward spiral of paranoia and delusion. In order to portray the character the way he wanted, he shed 62 pounds before filming. While doing an interview with The Guardian, Bale explained that it wasn't the process of losing weight that was hard, but the effect it had on him physically and emotionally. He said he was so skinny he could barely walk up a flight of stairs. He felt he was completely abandoning his body. It was like a roller coaster for him once he started adding food back into his stomach properly because his stomach completely rejected it. He was literally a walking skeleton, and that is some serious body damage, and most of it we can't even see. Just imagine how that affects everything inside his body, not just his weight. Halfway through the list at number 5 we have Kristen Chenoweth for her role in The Good Wife, which you never expect to be be a place of a possible death. In 2012, during one of her days of filming, an overhead lighting rig fell on her in what people call a freak accident. She was rushed to Bellevue Hospital in New York City, where they found a 5-inch skull fracture. When the accident originally happened, she wanted to continue on with the show, but she could barely put sentences together. She was ultimately forced to leave the show to concentrate on her recovery and physical therapy. She continued on with her acting career even after she healed. Talk about dedication. And over the next few years, she found that more medical issues appeared in her ribs, hips, and neck. She even found out not too long ago that she had 3 cracked teeth that she never even noticed when the accident first happened. She still continues to commit herself to roles and her career, even though she is still recovering from the accident and all the damages it caused. Coming in at number 4 is Linda Blair from the legendary movie The Exorcist. She was known for her childhood role as the possessed Reagan, but she said she's never been the same since she starred in the film. During one of the possession scenes, Blair had to be violently trashed around on a levitating bed. While filming the scene, there was a mechanical failure which ended up giving her a fracture in her spine. There are some screen test clips from the exact scene that you can find online, and it is pretty creepy to watch. Her fractured spine was bad enough, but later down the road it developed into scoliosis. Even 10 years after the film's release, she said she was still suffering from chronic pain. She began to see a chiropractor to help straighten her spine and restore spinal mobility. You think that would be enough to take a break from acting, right? Turns out after the first injury, she injured her back again when she flipped a motorcycle during the filming of another movie. Man, some people just don't know when to quit. And at number 3 we have Tippi Hedren from The Birds. If you haven't seen the 1963 horror movie, let's just say it involves a lot of birds. Mean, vengeful, human attacking birds. Apparently they used real birds on set too that weren't properly trained. During one of the scenes in a bedroom, the blonde actress was attacked by a huge flock of evil birds. While filming the scene, she fractured one of her legs and had severe scalp wounds. As if those injuries weren't enough, she kept filming after healing and was later on injured with a gallon of water that fell from above at 50 kilometers per hour and left her with a concussion and severe headaches for several years. She was awarded $1.5 million in damages by a court after the accident occurred in the soundstage. Once again, another actor that continued to act and devote herself to a role and other future roles as well. Okay guys, at number 2 we have Melanie Griffith from the movie Roar, which was titled as one of the most dangerous movies ever made, if not the most dangerous. The movie used real jungle cats and other animals while filming the film, many which were blamed for harming some of the cast and crew. Speaking of Tippi Hedren, she actually made the film back in the late 70s and casted some of her own family, including her daughter, Melanie Griffith. Small world. During one of the scenes, Melanie's face was completely mauled by one of the lions. She was rushed to the hospital where she had to have reconstructive plastic surgery done all over her face. They all continued filming regardless of injuries because Tippi and her husband were betting everything on the success of the film. They even sold their family home to fund it. Sorry mom and dad, but if a lion mangles my face, there is no way I'm still acting in your movie. That is just insane. There is now a documentary of the making of the movie where you can see pictures and footage of her injury. Here at number 1 we have George Clooney for his role in Syriana. His injury while filming was so bad that it had the actor contemplating suicide, so he said. The accident happened during a scene where Clooney's character was getting beaten up. He was tied to a chair which happened to just get pushed over, causing him to hit his head. Seems like just a little bump, but it actually bruised his brain in the process. It was so bad that spinal fluid was leaking from his nose. He had several different operations done before the pain subsided. Not only a fractured skull, but it also left him with an injured spine where he went through different surgeries and medications for. The aftermath of the injury left Clooney with constant pain and headaches that were so brutal he debated, and I quote, "Well, you just have to kill yourself at some point, you can't live like this." He ended up turning to pain therapy to relieve some of his symptoms. He continued on with his acting, and this role is actually what won him an Oscar. But I still don't. Starting off our list in the number 10 spot is Jared Leto. He has lost significant weight for roles in some of his movies before, such as Dallas Buyers Club, but it was gaining weight for his role in Chapter 27 that really did a number on the actor. The movie came out in 2007 where Leto took on the role of Mark Chapman, the man who shot and killed John Lennon. Leto admitted in interviews that he gained so much weight so quickly that he suffered from gout. Gout is a form of arthritis caused by excess uric acid in the bloodstream. The more fat, the more uric acid. Leto told LA Times, and I quote, "Towards the end of of the shoot, one of the glaring issues was the pain I had in my feet. I had a wheelchair because it was so painful. My body was in shock from the amount of weight I gained. It took about a year to get back to a place where I felt semi-normal. I don't know if I'll ever be back to the place I was physically. That is some serious dedication to a role, which he's proven to do in the past. But we probably don't realize the amount of damage he's really doing to his body in the process. We just enjoy seeing him doing his thing on the big screen. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he's out there putting serious strain on his body. I feel kind of guilty. In the number 9 spot, we have Linda Hamilton. In the 1999 movie Terminator 2, Linda took on the role of a badass woman, Sarah Connor. She took the role very seriously, training her butt off to play the hardcore mother of the leader of the future world. With any action movie comes gunshots, which are extremely loud. We would never realize just how loud they are by watching it through a screen, but to put it into some perspective for you, a clap of thunder is about 120 decibels of volume, but a gunshot can be anywhere from 140 to 190 decibels. In one of the scenes in Terminator 2, the characters are escaping a mental hospital inside an elevator. While shooting a take, Hamilton forgot to put her earplugs back in, so when a round of gunshots was set off in the elevator, it caused permanent hearing loss for the actress. Those suckers must have been really loud. Sliding into the number 8 spot is Daniel Craig. His time playing James Bond left him with his fair share of injuries. In Casino Royale, 2 of his teeth were knocked out, and in Quantum of Solace, there was a blow to his face that required plastic surgery. He was also rushed to the hospital after slicing off the top of his finger. Gross. But it was actually his time on Spectra in 2015 that left him with a permanent injury. While filming a fight scene with villain Mr. Hanks, he hurt his knee. It required surgery and threatened to halt filming for 6 months. But Craig didn't want to be out that long, so he pushed through the pain. In the end, production was only stopped for a few weeks. He had a quick operation to get his knee back in working order. But Craig still faces the permanent damage to his knee and has had several operations since to try and fix the damage. In at number 7, we have Mila Kunis. We've seen the trend many times where actors are required to lose significant weight for the role in a movie. Well, it was Mila's role in Black Swan that required her to completely transform her body. Kunis told ET, and I quote, "I had to look skinny in order to look like a ballerina. I used to be a smoker, so I smoked a lot of cigarettes and I ate a limited amount of calories, 1200 calories a day. I don't advocate this at all, it was awful." Her co-star Natalie Portman also put herself through a strict diet to lose 20 pounds for her ballerina role Nina. She faced tons of attention for her method approach acting and left Mila completely in the dark, receiving no credit for what she put her body through. You can only imagine the permanent damage that smoking does to your body, especially when used for weight loss. After the movie, Kunis told Harper's Bazaar that her body has never been the same. She dropped her weight down to 95 pounds for the film, which is a very dangerous weight for a lot of people to be at, and one that's hard to recover from. At number 6, we have Sylvester Stallone. Being a Hollywood action hero can be difficult and dangerous work. Just ask this legendary actor whose action thriller films have put him in danger on more than one occasion. He has a list of injuries from his films that include flesh wounds, broken ribs, dislocated shoulders, and broken neck bones. However, one injury has left him with permanent damage. While filming The Expendables 3, during one of the stunt scenes, he fell flat on his back and suffered from terrible back injury. He was hospitalized immediately and had to have major surgery to fix it. He now has a metal plate that has been fitted to his spine, which apparently squeaks sometimes when he walks. It will be in his back permanently, along with the horrifying memory of the tragic fall. Halfway through in the number 5 spot is Uma Thurman. Her injury in the movie Kill Bill caused a lot of controversy in the movie world. Thurman agreed to do her own stunts for the movie, and one of them was an action-packed driving scene. During one take, she lost control of the car, which caused her to veer off the road and crash into a tree. The crash was so bad she said she was in so much pain she thought she'd never walk again. Luckily, she was able to, but it did leave her with permanently damaged neck and screwed up knees. The footage of the crash was later released and is actually very unsettling to watch. The thing that caused so much controversy though though was that Thurman didn't want to film the scene and she was forced to. In an interview with the New York Times, Uma revealed that she had been harassed by the producer who forced her to perform the dangerous driving scene under bad conditions. She admitted she was scared. She went on to claim that the car seat wasn't screwed down properly and the straight road was actually a very twisty sand road. She sticks to her claims that the car was nothing but a death box that left her with permanent damages. Taking over the number 4 spot is Jim Caviezel, who took on the role of Jesus in the movie The Passion of the Christ. The story of Jesus shows that he suffered for the sins of mankind, but Jim Caviezel also went through some suffering to bring his story to life. You may have heard about the crazy story that he was struck by lightning during one of the cross scenes. They filmed the movie in Rome and the cross scene was filmed on a mountaintop. That day of filming there happened to be dark clouds in the sky and it was really windy, and out of nowhere he was struck by lightning. They noticed smoke coming out of his ears as well as his hair looked like the typical just got struck by lightning hairdo. He was okay, but we can imagine being struck by lightning does some damage to the human body. He also faced another injury while filming the prolonged torture scene. One of the actors missed with the whip and tore a 14-inch gash into Caviezel's back. He still carries the scar and also the memory, but defends the violence portrayed in the film as necessary to telling Christ's story. He's definitely going to heaven. At number 3 we have Jackie Chan, another actor who refuses to use a stunt double. He's famously known for his martial arts skills and wild stunts, but one of them left him with a serious injury. His career has been filled with stunts, which also means that his career has been filled with injuries. The most serious one was when he was filming Armor of God. One of the stunts required him to jump and grab a tree branch 25 feet above the ground. Well, the tree branch snapped and he fell the 25 feet, crashing into rocks down below. His skull was fractured and apparently a piece of rock had entered his brain. He had to have immediate brain surgery where they ended up putting a plastic plug inside the hole that the rock had created. He's left with permanent brain damage and also has some hearing loss on one side of his head thanks to the injury. Alright guys, at number 2 we have Dylan O'Brien. We have another serious brain injury on the list. Production on the final chapter in The Maze Runner was suspended indefinitely due to a horrific on-set accident involving the actor. The young star suffered from severe brain trauma when a stunt went wrong. During one of the stunts that involved a motorcycle, it quickly went wrong and he broke the majority right side of his face. He had to undergo reconstructive surgery that left him with permanent damage and 4 metal plates in his head. He says he feels extremely lucky to come out alive after the accident, and he said he had a brilliant doctor to help salvage his face and what he used to look like. The film's overall production had a massive delay after the failed driving stunt. Production of the film didn't resume until almost a year later, pushing the film's release date into 2018. The good news is that O'Brien was able to finish the movie and he still insisted that the stunt be in the film. Talk about dedication and insanity. Taking our number 1 spot is David Holmes, a stunt actor who was most famous for being Daniel Radcliffe's double in the Harry Potter movies. He was Daniel's stunt double for the whole Harry Potter franchise and has a huge resume of stunts before that, including underwater and flying stunts, which are considered to be the most dangerous. It was during the practice of one of the flying stunt scenes in Deathly Hallows that something went terribly wrong. The stunt required David to be jerked backwards with a wire that was attached to his back, which would then land him on a crash mat underneath. Instead, he flung into a wall, and when he landed on the crash mat, he immediately knew something was wrong because he couldn't move his fingers. Turns out he had broken his neck and is now paralyzed from the neck down. Daniel Radcliffe remains close friends to Holmes and says he also felt a sense of tragedy when it happened. The two still continue to spend time together and try to move forward in the best way.
And at 10, Tom Cruise, Iron Man. At this point it's a tale as old as time. In the early stages of Iron Man's development there were a handful of names floating around, but none more so than Tom Cruise, who seemed the most likely to take on the mantle prior to Robert Downey Jr. landing the role. Cruise confirmed the rumours while promoting Mission Impossible Fallout, however he did state to Comic Book Online that he wasn't as close to landing the role as people suspected. Now some fans got very excited at the possibility of seeing Cruise in a Marvel film, with the actor stating, I quote, "I look at a movie and I don't rule anything out. It's, what's the story? Does it interest me? Do I feel this is where the audience would like to see me? What can I learn? and what can I contribute? That's how I choose my movies. So don't rule Cruise out of the MCU just yet, there's still hope. Coming in at 9, Josh Hartnett, Spider-Man. Back in 2014 it came to light that actor Josh Hartnett had turned down roles in not just one major superhero film, but 3, including Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man. He said, I quote, "Spider-Man was something we talked about, Batman was another, but I somehow knew those roles had potential to define me, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to be labelled as Superman for the rest of my career. I was maybe 22, but I saw the danger." Now, it was probably a good choice for the actor, who instead went on to land roles in Pearl Harbor and Black Hawk Down, 2 major hits in Hollywood. Coming in at number 8, Rachel McAdams, Pepper Potts. Many will be surprised to know that Mean Girls actress Rachel McAdams turned down the role of Pepper Potts in Iron Man. When it was time for casting the 2008 mega hit, McAdams was at the top of Jon Favreau's list, with Marvel even offering her the role of Tony Stark's girl Friday, who turned it down to instead work on State of Play and The Time Traveler's Wife. However, despite this, Marvel finally nabbed the actress when it came time to shoot Doctor Strange, with McAdams joining the film as Christine Palmer, the role the actress said she found to be more appealing. Shots fired. Coming in at 7, Jessica Chastain, The Wasp. Chastain was in talks to join the MCU back when Ant-Man was in development, with the 2-time Oscar nominee topping the list of actresses to play Hope Van Dyne, aka The Wasp. However, according to reports, the actress turned down the role because it did not have enough superhero action for her taste. According to Chastain, she stated, "An actor only gets one shot with a superhero movie. Once you're cast as a same character, you are that character forever." And to quote Chastain, "Playing a civilian in a superhero movie was not something she was interested in. If only she knew what Ant-Man and the Wasp would hold for her." And of course, Endgame. I imagine she might have some regrets. In at 6, Saoirse Ronan, Scarlet Witch. When it was reported that the MCU was bringing Scarlet Witch into the fold, fans were overjoyed, of course, and many began speculating about who would take on the iconic role. 2-time Oscar nominee Saoirse Ronan was among the shortlisted for the powerful witch, and was even offered the part. However, at the time Ronan was in high demand and was forced to pass on the role due to scheduling conflicts, so of course the role instead went to Elizabeth Olsen, who did an incredible job as Wanda Maximoff, and it's hard to visualize anyone else taking on that role. Coming in at 5, Jason Momoa, Drax. According to reports, out of all the MCU movies, casting Guardians of the Galaxy proved to be the most difficult. Marvel's first choice to play the fan favorite Drax the Destroyer was Jason Momoa, who at the time was still riding his Game of Thrones high. At the time, Momoa was best known to play muscular characters who have little dialogue, so it was the perfect fit. The actor auditioned and the part was instantly offered to him, with Momoa even donning the costume for a bit. However, he pulled out last minute, coming to the realization that he didn't want to be typecast, and instead wanted to accept roles that show him as happy, because that's how he wanted his kids to see him. Coming in at 4, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Star-Lord. Leading on from our previous point, during the same time, Marvel was hunting for their lead for Guardians of the Galaxy, even knocking on doors of big Hollywood stars such as Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Levitt was offered the role of Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, but turned it down in order to do the Sin City sequel instead, which, as we know, flopped big time, forcing Levitt to admit that he made a mistake turning down the popular role. When Ant-Man came around, Levitt was determined to get a role in the MCU, and even made it on the shortlist alongside Paul Rudd. But of course, Rudd won out, and Levitt was left once again wishing that he had accepted the role from the very beginning. Coming in at number 3, Joaquin Phoenix, The Hulk, and Doctor Strange. After the momentous fail that was The Incredible Hulk, the MCU was searching for a new Hulk to appear in the upcoming Avengers movie, following Edward Norton leaving the franchise. Marvel wanted a big name to fill his shoes, and thus went after Joaquin Phoenix. However, Phoenix turned it down, and it instead went to Mark Ruffalo. However, Marvel did not give up hope, and once again approached Phoenix when it came time to cast the role of Stephen Strange, and they got pretty far. During contract negotiations, Phoenix backed out of the role, but has since praised the MCU, stating that he does enjoy the movies, but it's just not something he could ever see himself doing. In at number 2, Emily Blunt, Black Widow. Back in 2010, when casting began for Iron Man 2, Marvel approached rising star Emily Blunt for the role of Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow. However, due to scheduling conflicts, she turned it down, instead opting to shoot Gulliver's Travels. Big regret. The following year, Marvel approached the star once again, this time for the role of Peggy Carter in Captain America: The First Avenger. However, once again, the deal fell apart due to scheduling conflicts, and Blunt turned it down, yet again. Now, Blunt would have been amazing in both of those roles, but it's hard to see anyone other than Scarlett Johansson Johansson and Haley Atwell, who both did incredible jobs as Black Widow and Peggy Carter. And finally, coming in at number 1, Leonardo DiCaprio, Spider-Man. Titanic star Leonardo DiCaprio has had an incredible career in the industry, even nabbing himself an Oscar along the way. However, little did we know the Hollywood star turned down the role of both Robin and Spider-Man before soaring in the big leagues, but it didn't seem to slow him down. DiCaprio had a meeting with Sam Raimi about playing Peter Parker in the Spider-Man trilogy, but the actor stated that he didn't feel ready to put on the suit yet. When asked if he would ever consider playing a superhero, the actor stated, I quote, "You never know. You never know. They're getting better and better as far as complex characters in these movies. I haven't yet, but no, I don't rule out anything. It's unlikely that we'll see DiCaprio take on any superhero role, but like he said, never say never. Perhaps one." Coming in at number 10, Terrence Howard, Iron Man. Remember when Howard was in Iron Man? Nope, that's because he was very quickly replaced and it spelled out the demise of his career. Following on from the ensemble crash, Howard jumped over to the MCU, during which he was the highest paid actor on the film. However, when it came to the sequel, Howard's check was severely cut. Why? Because no one cares about Captain Rhodes. Not now, not ever. So of course Howard wasn't too pleased with this dramatic change, leaving the role and being replaced by Don Cheadle. Since then, Howard's done seemingly nothing aside from a few minor roles here and there, with even Howard himself blaming Iron Man for his fall from grace. In at 9, Chris O'Donnell, Batman and Robin. No surprise here. When do you last remember seeing Chris O'Donnell in anything? Go on, I'll wait. Seriously, I don't remember. It may be hard to believe, but O'Donnell actually had a Golden Globe nomination before taking on the role of Dick Grayson in Batman Forever, with many predicting the actor to hit the big leagues following his box office success. And then enter Batman and Robin, aka a public disgrace. The film was as campy as Adam West without the lovability of it. As we know, Joel Schumacher's career flopped following the film, and seemingly so did O'Donnell's. Most of the cast seemingly suffered aside from George Clooney, with O'Donnell's CV pretty much empty following the film, aside from a handful of cameos on long-running TV shows. In at 8, Sean Connery, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You might be surprised to see Sean Connery on this list, an actor known for being one of the greatest James Bonds of all time. However, he made quite a few mistakes in his long career, particularly The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. The man behind the original comic was Alan Moore, the same guy that redefined superheroes with the alternate reality Watchmen. However, when Hollywood picked up League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, it sank, and it sank hard. It can be argued that prior to signing on for the movie, Connery was beginning to slide into retirement, with only a handful of movies coming out. However, this one appeared to be the final straw, with the actor announcing his retirement in 2005. Seems like an odd coincidence that one of his final films barely scraped a profit and not only drew the end of his career, but also the director's Stephen Norrington's. In at number 7, Kevin Costner, Waterworld. Oh boy, it's gonna be hard to do this number with a straight face. Kevin Costner was a scene-stealing award-nominated actor prior to Waterworld. I mean, he was Robin Hood for God's sake. And Dances with Wolves, absolute classic. One of the greatest films of all time. So, what happened? Waterworld happened. That's what. The film is set in a futuristic world where all of the ice caps have melted, engulfing the entire world in water. And as you would expect, it flopped, and it flopped hard. Following the film, Costner seemingly disappeared from the Hollywood limelight, which began the end of his long career. He starred in a few films following, receiving a handful of Razzie nominations along the way. Poor Kevin. In at 6, Hayden Christensen, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. The first of many Star Wars appearances on our list, Christensen played Anakin Skywalker, the future Darth Vader. Now, the Revenge of the Sith was wildly disappointing, with the general consensus being that Anakin's transition to the dark side was whiny and irritating to watch. While many of Christensen's co-stars survived following the film, Christensen began to disappear from the limelight, only making small appearances here and there. Now, Christensen can't take all the blame for this. It comes down more to George Lucas and his poor directing. In at 5, Mike Myers, The Love Guru. Oh, Mike Myers, it's hard to believe that a singular film could end his career when the large majority of his films are controversial comedies. However, it happened. As we know, Mike Myers is best known for playing Shrek, as well as fan favourite Austin Powers, which sadly he's been unable to follow on from. Now, though some may argue that Cat in the Hat drew the end of his career, many chalked it up to The Love Guru, which saw Myers return to more adult comedy roles. However, many were quick to state that the film was an easy laugh, with audiences and critics despising it. Not only that, Myers was both the writer and producer for the film, making the faults all fall on him. Luckily, he had already filmed his role as the English general for Inglourious Basterds. However, The Love Guru seemed to spell the end of his career, with Hollywood steering away from the actor following the critical fail of the film.
The Toronto Maple Leafs will pay you $2 million if you can get Darren Roanoke back with his wife in time to win the Stanley Cup. Give me a pound.
In at 4, Jake Lloyd, Star Wars The Phantom Menace. You remember Jake Lloyd as young Anakin Skywalker in Phantom Menace, right? With only one other noteworthy appearance alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Christmas favourite Jingle All the Way. As you would expect, the sheer hype of Star Wars instantly catapulted Lloyd to fame, perhaps even faster than Daniel Radcliffe with Harry Potter. With the release of Star Wars, the facade began to crumble though, as The Phantom Menace was deemed one of the most disappointing films of all time. Following the release, it became apparent that the role was the beginning of the end for Lloyd. Following the extreme backlash and bullying he faced at school, he quit acting altogether. However, he's still around, just as an editor these days. He attends conventions and is happy to discuss Star Wars to excited fans. But it's sad to know that something so grand and highly anticipated deemed the end for this hopeful actor. Coming in at number 3, Halle Berry, Catwoman. Not a lover of Halle Berry, never have been, never will be. I don't like her in X-Men, I don't like her in James Bond, and I absolutely hated her as Catwoman. In the early 2000s, Berry headed up Catwoman, and it fell flat and fell hard. Only 3 years after her Oscar win for Monsters Ball, Berry was collecting the award for the worst actress, with the film getting 3 more at the Razzies. Outside of that, she went on to do more X-Men movies, but her work began to dry up, with her status as a has-been being more cemented than ever. In at 2, Elizabeth Berkley, Showgirls. Yes, Showgirls, arguably the most famous flop on our list, and a film that very publicly deemed the end of many stars' careers, including Elizabeth Berkley, aka Jessie Spano from Saved by the Bell. Following the successful teen show, Berkley looked to legitimize her career by stripping off for the 1995 bomb. Showgirls contained excessive nudity and over-sexualized content. Berkley even took home the Razzie Award for Worst Actress upon its release, with it severely stunting her growing career. However, as it stands today, the film is deemed somewhat of a cult classic and highly adored by many fans. Sadly, Berkley is not. Lastly, in at number 1, Mark Hamill's Star Wars The Return of the Jedi. I know this will trigger a lot of you, but hear me out. Prior to Star Wars, Hamill had next to no experience in acting before George Lucas scooped him up, and essentially catapulted him into the big leagues. Now, as we know, Return of the Jedi closed off the Star Wars trilogy, marking the end of Luke Skywalker's journey from young boy to powerful hero. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what happened, but Return of the Jedi was Hamill's last major on-screen appearance outside of Star Wars, with many speculating that he played Luke for just too long and it was hard to separate the actor from the character, unlike Harrison Ford. Now, Hamill did have a lot of success in voice acting, voicing characters such as the Joker. It just seemed alarming that he fell off the grid so fast.